Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. Today is day number 14 of my 30 days, um, 30 days, 30 albums review of 60s, 70s, and 80s, either new age, ambient, or experimental um, albums. And today's day number 14 is on Malcolm Cecil's and Robert, excuse me if I can't pronounce this, Margolef, Tonto's expanding headband. Originally, this album was recorded in 1971, and it was called Zero Time. This is the 1975 pressing, which they dropped Zero Time for some reason, and also created new artwork for it. I like the original artwork as well, but I do like this artwork as well. Also, I think both are really cool. For those that don't know this record, um, Tonto was an acronym for the original New Timbral Orchestra, which, if you go back to 1971, late 60s, they're still really harnessing big modular synthesizers into something that's more analog synthesizers, analog modular systems into something that's more easier to play, right? Something that's more compact, but all the equipments for the most part are still big, so you can't really compact them to something that you can play right in front of you like you could probably by the maybe early 80s when you think of like workstations and things like Fairlight and things like that, and sort of be able to record stuff and then incorporate that into that at the very least, let alone being able to access certain programs and things like that, or sounds like you could with MIDI or computers in that respect. So back then, how do you do it? Well, you build huge cabinets and you put in the actual pieces of what you want, and you put it in a way that's kind of a workstation, someplace you can sort of stand in the middle and be able to reach for the most part, but you're actually plugging in from the oscillators into the equipment that you're using, and then you're at the front here, where the station was, the main sitting stations. If you didn't want to stand at the boards and actually patch it, and you wanted to play the keyboard and play the instruments or play the sounds from the keyboard, then you had you had sort of like a patch bay that would also patch different machines to them as well. And these two gentlemen just did an amazing job with coming up with this, with making this workstation. Just kind of in some ways probably the pinnacle of analog modular system that has other pieces of equipment, and it has Oberheims in there, some Moogs, some Surges are in there. There's a lot of great videos on YouTube about it. Unfortunately, Malcolm Cecil passed away a couple years ago, but he definitely left a lot of videos, and there's definitely a lot notated about this album. I mean, about this workstation, and basically, it was on the popular front. It was important for Stevie Wonder's sound. I mean, Stevie Wonder was Malcolm Cecil produced, pretty much all of Stevie Wonder's '70s music, and everything from Superstition, which is probably the most notable track for having produced that amazing synthesizer lead bass line sounding sound in Superstition, and this instrument made that, right? So this was sort of the album that was sort of the what it could do, right? This was the album that kind of showed what it could do, and in many ways it served two purposes. Not only did it do that, but it showed what these two gentlemen could do, and from that they were just in demand. I mean, in demand producers, in demand session players. Just their who's list of credits for them is just some of the biggest names in funk music and pop music, most of the 70s and 80s, from Stevie Wonder on to Billy Preston to all kinds of people. I was blanking on a few names, but I was reading last night. There's quite a lot of amazing bands that used their help. And this track, I mean, there's what they said about some of these tracks, and I believe it, because you think of it says that there's some timbres and there's some sounds that sort of come from this particular uh, piece of equipment that will never be heard again, and that sounds pretty exciting to me, being into sound and being into electrical sound, and but that also kind of shows you the possibilities, right, of analog synthesis and analog sound modules. It's almost like a never-ending sound. It can never be replicated again, which is when you think about all the things he put together in the way that he did. Plus, you have all the organics and the anomalies that happen with analog signals, with electricity, RF, et cetera, et cetera. Like all the things that can happen to affect the signals of what you're trying to play. And it was just amazing. And it also said that it's not like you could do something and then replicate it again. Like a lot of times that was your only chance to see if you could get it right. And then sometimes when you didn't seem to get it right, the way that it turned out was actually different and maybe even better. So they kept it. And so you have a lot of anomalies kind of going on, and a lot of things aren't exact. And so there's some sounds on here and some evolutions of sounds that may have not only been the first time that was ever heard, but still might be the only time that certain timbres and colors of certain sounds ever happened on a recording. And that's just kind of like mind-blowing in some ways. This is probably maybe on par with some of the things that Wendy Carlos did, or maybe Tomita, as far as getting the most from early gear. There's an atmospheric experimentalism in this, a huge creativity in here. And I really like this album too, because there's 6 tracks, and it seems like everyone has a sort of a certain direction of, okay, well, here's an example of what it can do for this style of music. Okay, here's what it can do for this type of application, right? So you have like the first track is called Cybernaut. It sounds like a cool theme to a TV show, So, so that's kind of one example of a direction is. Number 2, Jet Sex. There's some amazing sounds on here. Oh, the Cybernaut I give 3 stars. Jet Sex I give 3.5 stars. Just some amazing sounds on here. This one goes a little deeper. The third track, Time Wise. Amazing example of funk, just of what the potential of funk could be with an instrument like this, right? 3.5 stars. Aurora starts the second side, a little bit more ambient on this track, 3.25 stars. And then River Song, is more Eastern sounding. And it's funny when I was listening to this, and it's been a few years since I played this. And the first 30 seconds, I instantly was like, oh, I've heard this in another song. And I was like, I went to the exact song because I knew it. It's a song called The Truth by Astral Asia from 1993, which is a ambient kind of Eastern electronic kind of techno artist slash song. And sure enough, I went to it and I was like, yeah, it's the exact same part that's in this. So they stole about 45 seconds of this track, number 5, River Song. But this one's more Eastern sounding, 3.25 stars. And then also the last track, Tama, 3.25 stars as well. I swear this sounds like something I've heard in a movie. Like there's this. I don't know if anybody out there, has this or could listen to this, and it sounds like something out of a '70s or '80s theme song, like a movie. Like it sounds so familiar. I know it's. I know I've heard it in something, but I can't. I couldn't pinpoint it. But just an overall great example. I think if you're into electronic music, this is a must listen to. Whether if you're into funk music, this is a must listen to. If you're into prog rock, space rock, folk rock, anything psychedelic, even like anything, even really in popular music. But if you're just slightly interested in the evolution of electronic music and the equipment being used, this is like a must listen to. I add up the stars, 19 and 3/4 stars divided by 6 tracks. Really strong 3.29. That's roughly like a 77. But I give this a full extra 5 points for just being so ahead of the time, groundbreaking, enjoyable. Because this is an album that you can play over and over and really get a lot from it. And just the creativity on here and just the sounds in here is probably an all time high for early electronic music. Just 1971 this came out. This is pretty groundbreaking. I gave it an 82 out of 100. It's a genre classic for 70s electronic music. You know, you can almost say it's probably a genre classic for early funk music. And electronic music. Maybe even a little bit into jazz as well. Jazz fusion could. Well, I'm sure some jazz fusion people would certainly be in awe of this record as well, considering 1971. Series 3 Moog synthesizer. Man, it's just some huge sounds from there. If you're a big Moog fan, if you're a big Surge fan, a big Oberheim fan, some amazing sounds on here. ARP 2600, ARP 2500. If you're a big ARP fan, some great sounds on here. Just amazing album, and a great album to listen to. And it's not just like you think of like Switched on Bach and like those things. This can be a little cheesy, right? Like listening to popular songs of the Moog, right? This is the next evolution. This is jazz. This is popular. This is funk. This is electronic music. And there's a lot of minor notes on here. There's some ambient music in here. There's some, some space music in here as well. Like this is some groundbreaking stuff. This is for an American artist too. Like this is probably a little bit before Tangerine Dream even. Just an awesome record. Curious if you've ever heard this album or you know it, or if you haven't heard this, go check it out and tell me what you think. All right, thanks so much.